I'm making coffee. I will be in and out for the next few minutes. This is a good song. Coffee is still brewing. It's a really good album. And because my stuff is still draining, let's watch this one because I know this one and it's good. This is a really good song. It's a really good album. So there's new. I'm gonna say that the best I can. Fadai. I hope that's close. Um, New music. I mostly don't do music on the channel anymore, but I'll probably check it out. All right, one more song and then we're going to get started. I think we'll do this one. Yeah, we'll do this one. This is such a good song, and as is true of many of the artists that I listen to, it always shocks me to see how like little exposure there is. Because these are not artists that I've like dug up on my own. These are people that I've seen recommended in many cases, and it's just like there's it's just Yeah, that's 28,000 views on this. I really have been enjoying this album. I know Backwash has been around for a while, but as with many artists, I didn't check them out a while ago, you know? Alright. I'm gonna go throw away my filter. My coffee is ready. And then we'll get back to the much less fun stuff than listening to good music. as is often the case when I do these, I don't remember exactly where I left off last time, but it was Nazi shit. Like, I don't have to know exactly what he was saying to know what he was saying. I have not been writing as much as I maybe should. I haven't been like fact checking as much as I should. Here's the thing. At this point, and I take this direction sort of from Knowledge Fight. Dan, after they did 400 or 500 episodes on Alex, stopped doing such deep dives into everything because there was enough material already to impeach him, right? In the sense of consider him a non-trustworthy source. Even if Jim gets a couple of facts right or has a couple of details that are correct, and I'm not saying that he does, I'm just saying even if there are a couple things that he is able to accurately assess, like the offshoring of jobs, right? That's true. That is a thing that has happened, and it has hurt Americans, right? It's also hurt the people in the countries where those jobs are offshored to, but Jim is not concerned with that. But that sort of thing, like, okay, that's true. But I know where he's coming from. I don't really care if he's right about one thing because I know all of the stuff he says is based in Germany was the best and the US should have fought on the side of the Nazis in World War II. That's where everything he has to say comes from. There's a lot of religious stuff around it too, but I don't know if that's as important. I mean, because so much of the true Israelite thing is Germany was the royal tribe, right? So I don't know if they started at Germans are special and then worked their way back, or if they came up with this idea that the actual true Israelites were white people and then worked forward and decided that Germany, specifically Nazi Germany, was the best son or whatever, right? I'm not sure. They may have developed independently. But, well, actually, in fact, I know they did. Because British Israel dates to the 1800s. But Jim is far more concerned with Nazi stuff than he is with the Bible. As much as he tries to portray it as a Bible thing, the Bible is justifying his white supremacy and his anti-Semitism, right? It's not the other way around. So, anyway, I think we're like 25 minutes in. I had to reset my computer. Too loud in my headphones. Christ.
Because the French were with the Germans fighting the Americans.
I've talked about it already, but just in case you missed the first time we talked about this is all just Nazi propaganda revisionism, right? Actually, the Germans were right in World War II, and they were treated badly by the Allies, who were actually bad. Think about the people who call Abraham Lincoln a tyrant, right? And they're the same. They're the same people. The same people call Lincoln a tyrant as would say Germany was right in World War II. So you can kind of dismiss them, as far as I'm concerned.
Americans were so stupefied by the control of the propaganda of the newspapers in America, the radio and everything, that the Jews controlled, because the Jews bought it all up after the depression they created in America. But when they landed on the shores of North Africa, the United States military engaged German and French soldiers fighting alongside each other to stop the United States, the unholy alliance of coming to destroy their countries. See, there's a lot of lies and deceit that you've had to live with, that you've been told all your life. The truth is right here, in the name of Yahweh.
You've been told your whole life that the Nazis were bad. Well, I'm here to tell you those people were lying to you. And they're actually super cool. That is obviously not my opinion. Just in case anybody tunes in late. I don't believe that. But Jim certainly does.
Christ our Father. Gut mit uns to all of you and with us. Yahweh gut mit uns.
Ooh, you know some words in German. The Nazis they'd take you in. They'd be like, this guy is one of us. Where's mine?
German children being born, young girls out pushing the carriages.
There were no babies being born in America in the Great Depression. Don't you know that we have that famous decade gap where there were no children?
All right, this is very important. Take a look.
It's a good thing I don't drink.
Look at our white race today. There's no babies being born.
I just made fun of him for that. I certainly don't know any white people who've had babies.
Oh. So they have autism. 1 out of 10 have autism. And then they swamp your lands with foreign invaders.
I don't think it's actually 1 in 10, but the number of people who have autism is much higher than is like documented. And it has always been that way. This is not new. There maybe is an increase in rates today. Maybe. But it's so hard to know because autism has been really poorly understood and poorly diagnosed up until the last 2 decades. Up until the 90s, they believed girls couldn't have autism at all. No women could be autistic. I know for a fact that's not true. Right? So, are the rates increasing? Possibly. I mean, my thought would be autism is largely genetic. So if you have an autistic parent, you're likely to be autistic. There's a good chance that you'll be autistic. Autistic people now have access to dating apps and can find other people to be with, where previously they maybe didn't have the same sort of dating access. So you've got autistic people marrying autistic people, having autistic children. I don't know. That's a speculation. But I could see that. I could see that being responsible or partially responsible if there is an uptick in actual new autistic people, not just diagnoses. Because there are a lot of people who were not diagnosed. Right? So this is a claim that is impossible to prove until we know that we have diagnosed every autistic person there is, right? And then you can look at the rates over time. But that will never happen. So this is just dumb.
These mongrels. In this country, America, we've got 20 million illegal criminal Mexicans in this country. Plus all the blacks, Somalians, and all...
Hey, Somalians mentioned.
including the Jew. In our country, you white countries of Europe, you're being invaded. You're being invaded by mongrel hordes out of North Africa and out of the Mideast. Here we have young women on a bicycle, having the good time of their life.
The good time of their life. Remember, I think it's important to keep pointing this out. The reason he's able to show these pictures of Germans is because there weren't people riding bikes in America in 1932. It just didn't happen. There were no bikes left. People had already eaten the bikes because they were so hungry.
Dressed very nice. Here we have a resort down here, a bathing place where they could eat and have a good time. Here we have the People's Car of Germany that Hitler gave them, the People's...
Jesus Christ.
Car. They're out tenting, enjoying a wonderful life of posterity.
Again. Here's the thing. I'm not saying it's kind, and I'm not saying I shouldn't be better than this. But if you are going to set yourself up as an expert, smarter than everybody else, expecting everybody to listen to you, you could say that about me, right? I say my things. I expect people to take me seriously, or want them to. I feel like I'm a pretty good communicator. But if you're going to be that way, you have to expect high standards to be applied to you. If you get it wrong, people should tell you, because you have set yourself up as the person who knows. If you are supposed to be this big thinker and yet you can't get words right, I will talk shit about you, because you have set the expectation that you are some sort of genius, right? If you don't posture like you are smarter than other people, then I will apply a different standard to your errors, because, like he's not trying to be smarter than everybody. He's just trying to express himself. And that's fine. It's totally fine for people to make mistakes. But when you are setting yourself up as this intellectual, you should be held to a high standard of accuracy. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to nitpick him because he deserves it.
Was superlative.
That's also not how you say that word. Superlative.
There was nothing like it in the world. I'm going to repeat that. There was no such wonderful standard of living in the world in any other country of the world.
Prove it. And now look, again, this is one of those things where I was saying earlier, I could go look this up, right? I could go fact check this and be like, well, actually, real GDP in X country was higher. I could probably do that, but I really don't care. The whole point of what was happening in Germany was that was only true for a small group of people. It probably wasn't true for as many people as Jim thinks it was true for, but even the people who did have the benefit of being correctly Aryan and aligned with the party, everybody else was getting fucked. And Germany's economy was also being propped up artificially, but he doesn't know that. But I know that. Anyway, he's just claiming this that there's no other country in the world where the standard of living was as high. And I say, prove it. You prove it to me because you're making the claim. You go through the list of every country that existed at that time, look at their economics, look at their like satisfaction of life, and prove it to me. And then I will agree with you.
The German Third Reich because they took back control of their money and they kicked the criminal, Christ-murdering, banking Jews out of their country.
They did more than that, if I recall
We
correctly.
have just a few more pictures.
Jesus Christ.
All the wonderful coats.
This is ridiculous, these pictures. Ridiculous.
And everything that the ladies are wearing out shopping in Germany. Notice how the German women are dressed, looking very wonderful, looking very, very
Very
nice.
wonderful.
Elegance and fashion in the Third Reich of Germany was world class. There was nothing that could compete with the elegance and the fashion of the German tailors and manufacturers and the production of it.
Nothing
All
could
of
compete
these
with it.
wonderful pictures. This is how the Germans went out and shot.
Again, you can take propaganda pictures anywhere at any time, and they can tell whatever story you need them to tell. You can get a homeless person, say, put on this jacket and hat and scarf, and we're going to take a picture of you and make you look like a gentleman, right? This is so weak. This is just fucking nostalgia, and it's nostalgia based in both racism and lies. It is really boring.
And dined and enjoyed themselves. Next, please. Here we have the German Reich lifestyle. It was unmatched. Look at the happiness on their face.
All the meth you could do.
Look how healthy they are. Look at the nice clothing that they're wearing and everything else.
Also, just as an aside, how do you know they're healthy? They could have cancer. There's all kinds of things that could be terribly wrong with you that aren't visible. You know, if you're missing a limb or something, I mean, even then you wouldn't be able to tell this guy, right? You wouldn't be able to tell. He could have no legs. This man could like be on crutches and you wouldn't know because you can't see the part of his body that which. But I'm picking nits here because I find this shit so tedious. This is so boring. This is this should not to any thinking person be convincing of anything. Because you can take pictures like this anywhere at any time. Right? During the Great Depression, you could have gone to New York City and there would still be people out at the lovely nightclubs, drinking, well-dressed, dancing. Los Angeles, right? Same thing. Probably Chicago in the Great Depression also, because you've got people with real money. Those people didn't get hurt. They might not have had as much money, but they weren't suffering, right? Their lifestyle mostly didn't change. Most people's lifestyle changed, but for some people it didn't. And you can go photograph those people and you could say, look how good everything is, right? And I mean, really, it's like saying, look how good Nvidia's stock price is. That means the market is healthy, right? That's not true, and nobody should take that really very seriously. Because like, you could equally say, look at how bad X stock is doing. The market is terrible. The economy is terrible, right? You can pick and choose. You can cherry pick this stuff. And of course, the Nazis are going to put out stuff that makes them look good. Is anybody surprised by that? It's just, I need better enemies, right? And not to compare them because they're not the same. But this guy and Corey, who I have reviewed a couple of his videos, both of them do not make arguments anywhere near the level of tightness. Certainly that I respect from Corey, who went to law school. Look, he's probably a great lawyer. I have no reason to doubt his ability as a lawyer. He's a smart guy. He works hard. Apologetics is tough. In fairness to him, I was an apologist for a long time. Not like not like an evangelist, but I was very convinced that the Bible was true, and I had my reasons for why various, contradictions or seeming issues weren't, why you could harmonize them, and it all makes sense. I was all right at that, and, I understand. But when you're on the other side of it, saying, let's step back, let's think about the whole world. All right, let's think about what this really would be. God only wanted one group of people in one part of the world to know he was real, and the best God and the only real God, right? He didn't go to South America and talk to those people. Like, and then you just start picking at threads, and it becomes a lot tougher to justify. So I get it, like it's tough, but the arguments he makes they're not lawyerly, right? That, or I should just go take the bar because I'm ready. I just think that they're not very good. I'm sure there are better ones that he could use, but he just isn't. Anyway, uh, both both of these both of these people, I don't feel like I have to stretch my brain as much as I'd like to.
All these pictures show nothing but prosperity.
Right, because we didn't show the pictures that showed people living in the gutter.
Prosperity, because it was Germany for the Germans. Here we have another picture, and I'll be getting into the real meat of the matter very soon.
Please, for fuck's sake, we are 30 minutes in. We're 30 minutes in and we have not gotten to the meat of the matter yet.
Young German children saluting. This is the true white European.
Yeah, what modern Nazis call that is the Roman salute. That's how they get around. Like, they know it's the Nazi salute, but they call it the Roman salute to try and trick dumb people, basically. Like, oh, we're not Nazis. Look, this is just heritage, heritage, not hate, as Confederate enthusiasts say.
Salute of our race. The United States had this salute. We had this salute in the United States, including with the Boy Scouts and everything.
That's true.
else.
That's true. We did have that salute in the United States, and it's weird to contextually, it's weird to look back and see those pictures. But again, the salute itself is not the problem. It's just a gesture, right? It's just a position you're holding your arm in. The problem is what it represents now. Much like the swastika, which Jim has also done videos on about how it's a great thing. It was a cool symbol, and it meant something in Hindu culture. And then it was appropriated by the Nazis, and it became the logo, right? It became the brand. It was the Nike swoosh of the Third Reich. And you just got to stop using it. Now, in India, they still use it, which is... it's tough. It is their thing. They should be able to still incorporate it. But I would recommend they move on and find a different symbol. But there are also a lot of people in India who are fans of the Nazis. So, anyway, the problem is not the shape. The shape itself is without meaning. Right? The only meaning it has is the meaning people give it. And what people give it, the meaning of now is you're a Nazi. And that's a bad thing. It's becoming less and less of a bad thing to be in America, but it is still a bad thing to be. If you do that salute, nobody cares about your backstory. Because what that salute says is, I think the Nazis were pretty cool. Because the only reason I know about this salute is because of the Nazis. Nobody knows, like, yes, it's true. There were people in America who did that salute in school and stuff. That was sort of a common thing. But we stopped doing it. And if you know that salute today, you don't know it from in the 1920s, the elementary school kids did that. You don't know that. Maybe you find out about that later and you use it as a justification. But that's not where you learned about the Nazi salute. Right? Again, these arguments are weak.
Who, in America, who even used the swastika as a medal of
Yeah,
achievement
true.
until the Jews deceived history.
No.
Here we have more German young women, wonderful young women, music. Look how they
I think Jim denies the Holocaust. But it's funny. Well, it's not funny. But it's interesting because he for sure wants it to have happened. Right? So I don't know if he actually does deny it. I feel like there is evidence that he has denied it. But I also know that is like his mission in life to do that. So he would hope it was real, which is an interesting conundrum to deny the Holocaust but also wish it had happened.
They're dressed, how clean they are. You don't see any blacks in this picture. You don't see any Aborigines or Eskimos or Muslims in this picture. Here we have more of the young women enjoying themselves, enjoying.
I will say it makes total sense for white Nazi to be fixated on young women because they do be pedophiles.
Everything compared to the Jew-created United Kingdom U.S. and the USSR depression. The Third Reich flourished in the 1930s because they took back the control of their money. Here we have exercises. Here we have the young women out exercising to keep themselves in shape, all right, on a racial plane.
I don't know. I think that was just a reflex to say on a racial plane. I don't know what the fuck it means. They're keeping themselves in shape on a racial plane. They're keeping themselves in shape whitely? According to how white... Like, I don't understand that, really. So I think it was just like, I need to make this about race real quick. My best guess.
The only exercise the young women in America get today is going to the fast food stores, slopping down their burgers, and playing with their iPhones.
Jim doesn't know about the fitness girlies, I guess. Or that there are, for example, cheerleaders at every college in the country and every high school in the country. And like women's sports. Those women are in shape. A lot of women who don't do sports are also in shape. Certainly better shape than him. But, you know, this is not even a Nazi thing. This is just an old person thing. Complaining about kids these days. Kids these days, they don't do anything. They're just on their iPhones. And I do think young children especially have too much access to iPhones and iPads, and that's not healthy. But this is old person shaking their fist at the young people type shit.
Looks like a herd of cattle coming in.
Jim, what are you, about a 46-inch waist there, brother?
There's no self-pride. Down here we have a...
I mean, again, I'm not one to fat shame, but I'm looking at that profile, and it does not go like this. It goes like this. Maybe he's pregnant.
Restaurant. This is winter time, by the way. See the ice skates on this German lady here? Young girl.
Who cares?
She's a waitress. And these people are out having a little something to drink. This is very interesting.
It is not.
Lake in Germany, it was a cafe. They could come in and they're dressed for it. They sat at a table and they got coffee and that, and they just stayed as long as they want, and they watched
I mean, that's probably true that they could stay as long as they want, but he doesn't fucking know that.
people ice skate on the ice rink. Now, that's what prosperity gives you without the Jew in your life, without the Jew in your country.
Remember, there's no ice skating rinks in America.
Without the Jew controlling the central bank and the distribution of money in your nation, controlling your production, taking away your morals and your ethics, and bringing in their diversified mongrelization and filth of homosexuality, pornography, and every other filthy thing you can imagine.
That's right. Every bad thing in the world was created by Jews. And it was created on purpose to hurt white people. Specifically white people. There's been pornography longer than there has been Palestine. Right? There was pornography before there was a House of Omri. You just can't blame that one on the Jews. Where did the Kama Sutra come from? Was that written by Jewish people?
They are truly the Christ killers.
Also not true.
Don't you recall that the Christ, Yahweh the Christ himself said to the Jews in John 8:31, he was speaking to the Jews.
Oh, there we go. 831, 844, and 847.
In heaven with a capital F. He said to the Jews, you are of your father with a little f, which is from beneath in hell itself. Yahweh the Christ wasn't a Jew. He was the Almighty Father. Emmanuel, the living God.
Born to a Jewish woman. That's kind of tough to get around, though.
Now, upon its conquest, Germany's wealth was first to be liberated. Every house and every apartment was entered, searched, and stripped of everything valuable and movable. This is after World War II had just ended. Jewelry, silverware, works of art, clothing, household appliances, and money.
Now, the Germans, at the time the war ended, had already annexed Poland, were trying to take over Russia, and had also occupied France. I guess we're just to assume that they didn't do any of that in the places that they conquered. Right? They didn't ransack anything. They probably paid the people there for their, suffering and the inconvenience of being invaded. Oh, we are so sorry to have killed, many of your people. Here's a check because we want to just make it nice. I don't think that's what happened. I'm not here to say looting is good, but it's only recently that anybody has cared about it. It has been a part of warfare. It's been like one of the main goals of warfare for forever. You start a war so you can go take the shit that they have that you want. Right? A lot of times it's like livestock, cattle, horses. But, trade routes. Oil, you might say. That's pretty much been how it has always been. So, I don't know look, I know what he's saying, right? I understand the point here. The point here is the Allies were so mean to the beautiful white Germans. That's the point. And I do not give a fuck, right? It's more fun for me to engage with some of the ancillary stuff. But But obviously, more Nazis survived the war than should have. Right? I'm not crying about Germany.
Stores and shops and warehouses were ransacked. Farms were deprived of their farm animals, machinery, seed stock, fodder, wine, food stocks. Telephones were removed. Telegraph equipment was dismantled. Cars and trucks, even fire engines were taken.
Oh, not the fire
Americans,
engines.
the unholy alliance, the Russians, now, yes, the Jew-Soviet Union, and the British troops found themselves knee-deep in the remnants of a standard of living that most could only dream about.
Most Germans could only dream about that standard of living. The only reason a lot of Germans started doing better was because Jewish money was being taken from the Jews and handed to Germans. It wasn't because the jobs were so good.
William H.G. Stoneman, foreign correspondent of the Chicago Daily News, on May of 1945 said, millions of dollars worth of rare things, varying from intricate Zeus lenses to
Zeiss, not Zeus. Again, this is a man who can't read. So he sees a word that looks like Zeus, which is the only word he knows. And he just assumes it's Zeus lenses.
butter and cheese and costly automobiles are being destroyed because the Army has not organized a system of recovery of valuable enemy material. The term recovery is a euphemism of looting. He went on to describe.
Again, I just why do I keep even bothering to point this out? But everybody did looting. The Germans were looting from Jewish people extensively. You know, where did a lot of that stuff come from? Jim, where did that jewelry and art come from? Sure, some of it was property. And fucking here's another thing. All right, when you're taking this art, you are like checking it against artworks that have been reported stolen. I am sure, and I'm going to say this without looking it up, so maybe I'm wrong. I don't really care. I don't think it matters if I'm wrong. But I'm sure that a lot of that artwork was given back, right? If it was taken inappropriately. But also, I don't really care that much. Such is the fate of being on the losing side. This is what he would want us to do to the Jews, right? Kill them all, take all their shit. So why is it so bad when his team's losing? Right? This is the thing. You gotta be an honest competitor. If your team's winning, you celebrate. If your team's losing, you take it. You just say we just weren't good enough. But obviously he can't do that.
Scattered everywhere, millions of dollars worth of plundered goods. The troops simply could not carry everything that they could steal, so they vandalized it and left it to rot. It is estimated that the value of looted properties by the unholy Allied armies ran into the hundreds of millions of dollars and, quote, deprived...
Okay, quote who? Estimated by who? I am not... Again, I've talked about this a few times, and I just want to say, because it's self-defense. I feel like I should be looking this stuff up. But I really don't want to, and I don't care, and I can't be bothered. So I will simply say he is making these claims. These claims could be true. I don't know if they are. But he has not cited a source to justify making the claims. It is estimated, no source for the estimation. A quote with no attribution. Like, what am I going to do with that? I can't do anything with that.
The German civilian population the comforts necessities so sorely needed, unquote. In a displaying of breathtaking chutzpah, the Jews
He doesn't know that word.
Soviets complained that American officials have stolen equipment from plants in a zone earmarked for shipment back to the Soviet Union and sold it to foreign countries at a profit. Chicago Sunday Tribune, which back then was a great deal more honest than media today, was damning and said no effective steps were taken to discourage the looting by the invading armies during the war. It was tolerated under such
Euphemisms.
Souvenir collecting. This was all decreed by Ike the Kike, the Black Jew.
Jesus Christ.
Over 200 German art masterpieces were looted by the American Armed Forces and are still held under lock and key in the United States. And the British were equally piratical. Oh yeah? Well, where are those two
Piratical, Jim.
100 German masterpieces that the U.S. stole from the German people, as well as the British? Remember, America and England were under Jewish finance control. The British seem to be everywhere where there is scientific or industrial information to be gleaned. Hand in hand with the plundering of Germany was the removal its means to trade, the production of shipbuilding, manufacture, and operation of aircraft, ball and taper roller bearings, all heavy machine tools, heavy materials, aluminum, magnesium, beryllium, vanadium.
Okay, I'll read these. Magnesium, beryllium, vanadium, radioactive materials, hydrogen peroxide, synthetic oils, gasoline, ammonia ceased. The production ceased.
Radioactive materials, hydrogen peroxide, synthetic oils, gasoline, ammonia ceased to exist. Ralph A. Keeling said, German science has been destroyed, and with it the German ability to compete commercially with the war victors. And who were the war victors? It was the financial Jews, the Jews of the communist Roosevelt administration in America. The filthy, fat, drunk Churchill in England, whose grandmother was a Jewess, all right?
I don't know about Churchill's Jewish ancestry, but I do know that he was a drunk. That's true.
And the butcher beast Stalin of the...
Also, he basically single-handedly caused a famine in India. So there are good reasons to not like Winston Churchill. He was on the correct side during the war. But that doesn't make him a good person, you know? Stalin was on the right side during World War II. And again, you're not going to see me kissing his boots.
Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union was totally controlled by the Jews after the Bolsheviks revolution, when they slaughtered the white Prussian and the Tsar and his family. Because the Jew did not want anyone, especially the white race, to understand without Jewish banking, you could have total prosperity. You could have morals and ethics and a wonderful land to live in and to be happy, to have a home and raise your children. And you didn't have mongrels come into your country to destroy your bloodline and your culture.
That's right. You can't have a home and be happy. Well, a lot of people can't have homes. You can't be happy to raise your children anymore. It's just not. It's because of woke. And nobody is. Nobody is happy to be raising their children.
Ralph F. Keeling went on to say, we even managed to kidnap a large number from the Western Russian zone when we retired the U.S. to let the Soviets take over. And as a consequence, we now have at our disposal hundreds of German scientists who no doubt constitute one of our most profitable acquisitions taken from the Third Reich, as well as the majority of the patents from the...
It's interesting that he reads Third Reich. The quote says Fallen Reich. I don't know if that's telling, but it seems significant to me. Obviously, it would be more telling if I didn't already know he was a Nazi. You know, I know where his sympathies lie. But I've been going about an hour, and I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to go to bed. I don't feel like I slept all that well yesterday. So, all right. We're slowly making our way through it. Got 10 minutes today, so only like 30 minutes left.